a good dough has two things going for it: the extendability, where it can extend, and the elasticity. And to me, that fascinated me. So that gluten structure builds, and then you have to knead the dough on itself. When you're busy kneading the dough on itself, you're kind of creating this motion where you're folding the dough into itself. And as you fold the dough into itself, it creates the ability to stretch, right? He says, stretch it so thin that you can see the sun set through it. And that's kind of that was his analogy. But it really it had a great impact on me, because in general in life, when we talk about healing our past, when we struggle with being able to move forward, right? Because whenever we struggle with healing the past, whenever we bring up the past, it's usually a roadblock or something that's in the way of allowing us to move forward, right? Or be completely present. Because again, you don't want to be in the future. You want to be able to stand firmly on the ground that you are now. But if you think about somebody that's emotionally unstable, or just think of a time that you struggled more, right? So some days we are more sensitive than others. What happens is that we don't have enough flexibility in ourselves, and that elasticity isn't available to us in that time. So it's so important to know, right? So when we're in that kind of position, number one, we don't make decisions when we are in a more sensitive position. The goal is to sit. The goal is to take care of yourself. But when we are more balanced, right? Because we all have our cycles, and different experiences in life and different milestones will bring up different like just different emotions, depending also on what we've gone through. So just knowing where that is exactly to create the sense of structure, right? Is even if we are feeling that sensitivity, it's not getting trapped within us. It's not holding us back, because it also doesn't allow us to ground ourselves, right? When we are sitting in the past, we are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. We struggle with where we belong. So coming back to the dose structure, when we have that ability to kind of be like the extendability of ourselves, right? Knowing that sometimes things aren't only about us, and the extendability of being able to stretch, right? Rather than break, but stretch. What happens is you have that beauty where you're able to see through it, right? A good dough, when it's rolled out properly, you can kind of, it's almost transparent. When we are able to be completely present, we have that ability for that transparency. So how emotional organization comes into this is when we take that time to organize ourselves. And again, there is many ways and many levels of organization. But the simplest way of organizing yourself, if you had one thing to do as you moved through a crisis or through a setback or just a challenge, the ability to allow yourself to take in a breath, lean into yourselves, and oxygen, that extra oxygen is going to assist the nervous system and create a support as you move through whatever you move through. Because trauma lives in the body, experiences live in the body. The difference between, right, when we think in general about pulse, right? How do we know if somebody's alive? You can test their pulse, right? Just test, see if they have a pulse. What does that mean? There is a movement. In Chinese medicine, they can tell a lot about your health by checking your pulse. Sometimes heat gets trapped in our body, sometimes our body goes cold, depending on your relationship with your body. But your body will tell you a lot. So and then understand that everything lives within us. When we know that something lives within us, breathe through it. Okay, give me a second. Oh, you guys, sorry. I think it cut off for a minute. Yeah, are we okay now? Internet is I can hear. Okay, so the music's not that. Okay, so, okay, I'm just gonna realign the thoughts a second. Okay, so yeah, so by aligning the channels, right? So by coming back into ourselves, yeah, I apologize. It is a little wonky today. Thanks for letting me know. When for a lot of us, we're trying to organize a lot of things, we're trying to deal with a lot of things, and um, especially when you have a lot like something very specific happening, the only thing we want is to solve that problem and for the problem to go away, right? But if you think about it on a daily basis, that's why the American culture was able to sell us the concept of work and work ethic. And so many people fall for this sense of like overextending themselves and um, working crazy, crazy hours um, because there is a sense of an addiction to like solving problems. And it's not from the solving problems perspective. It's that when we've been through things in our life, it hit the trauma. We're familiar with trauma. We're familiar with challenge and strain. And if our body, when we talk about sensation, if our body is only familiar with sensation from the sense of when I talk about like the concept of sorry, hold on a second here. Like addiction from like appetite. When we talk about food, right? Um, we're used to flavor and taste and experiences through external things, right? We only eat when we're hungry. What happens is so much of the way we feel and experience is drawn from outside. So there's this sense of an adrenaline rush that we're drawing from. But when we begin to set ourselves up from a healthy space, we lean back, we lean into ourselves. We're able to find that stability within and just take that time to create that extendability, right? Like it's taking the time to build on that breath, right? And that muscle. So we can kind of build on that, like the gluten structure, really, but like the structure within ourselves to be able and create that flexibility when we run into challenge rather than ourselves breaking. When we're in that space also, we will draw less tension and less stress because there will be more consistency as well, because we go one breath at a time, right? It's one breath at a time. There's also the sense of intuition. For so many of us, we lose our sense of intuition. We lose our sense of self-worth. And if you think about emotions like a posture, we lose our sense of an emotional posture as well. But when we take that time to sit in a simple form and know that we have breath to guide us everywhere we go, whatever we face in the day, we know we have the siyata dishmaya as well, right? There's this divine intervention that's available to us, but we're also able, from an intuitive perspective, our day almost creates, like with back to the dough, it creates a very, very thick dough where we're not able to see through it. It doesn't complement us. If you think about the work or your responsibilities, ask yourself, how much are you working? Is your work working for you, or are you passive to all the challenges in your life? Now, I know with some things we don't have a choice, but the question is, how are we? What is the relationship? And you can always take back that power. Taking back that power doesn't mean quitting the job or not doing the housework or not showing up for your responsibilities. It's trusting that the situation you're in is exactly where you're supposed to be. But when we are able to lean into ourselves in that position, we begin to operate from a sense of intuition rather than being submissive to the tasks at hand. And the last thing is that when we operate from that space, we create a lot less emotional clutter. And there's forgiveness that's available in the day life. For so many of us, we kind of spot the negativity or the um I don't know, where people have wronged us, or in a day who is wronging us. Really like spotting it as in like, it's not fair. I'm like, like a little bit of victimhood, but a lot of it being surrounded around like the list of people that kind of um daily get in the way of us being ourselves um is challenging. So we're able to align, create that flexibility and that elasticity. We can see past those things. Sorry, this is not. We can constantly show ourselves, and so thank you so much for joining today. I will take any questions if anyone has any, and I apologize if the stream is not so consistent with the internet. So yeah.